Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jones, another episode of Veterans in Politics. Her guest is going to be Keanna List. She's going to discuss the corruption in the Department of Family Services. But before we get to her, Jim, you have anything?
Yeah, actually I do. And I'm going to make it really brief, but I just want everybody to understand that, well, yes, I am a registered Republican, and I'm a proud registered Republican, but I'm also not a Kool-Aid drinker. And I think that's one of the main problems that we have in this country, whether it's Democrat or Republican. So I'm always going to speak my mind. If I don't agree with a Republican president, I'm going to bring it up. If I don't agree with certain things, I'm always going to bring that up. And I'm not, and I'm not going to apologize for it.
Don't apologize.
So when I get told that, like, well, where did you come up with this idea? Or I criticize Donald Trump, I get criticized for criticizing Donald Trump. Well, I can tell you right now, my favorite president ever was Ronald Reagan. And now that I've gotten older, and I understand a little bit more about public policy, I criticize Ronald Reagan a lot with some of his policy. I do think he was a good president, and
He was active.
And I
He was
do,
an actor,
right. And I do agree with some of the stuff he said, but I don't just arbitrarily agree with everybody because they're a Republican. And I don't just automatically disagree with somebody because they're a Democrat. I think anyone who does that makes them just as ignorant as Democrats.
basically.
That I don't agree with a lot of the stuff the Democrats bring up. So I am not going to apologize for disagreeing with politicians, whether they're Republican or Democrat. And I'm never going to do that because I honestly think that's just ignorant. I'm not going to automatically agree with every single policy that supports veterans if I don't think that it actually supports veterans.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
You know,
And my whole family is a Democrat. And
my whole family was too.
And the family that I started, I made them all Republican. So I'm trying to change the wind,
right,
a little bit. But you know what? It is what it is. You know, I believe that everybody's supposed to have their own free will, their own mindset, and not follow the flock. And that's the problem with this country. Yeah. Everybody's following the flock. Well, my parents are this, so I'm going to be this. But you don't agree with half of the crap your parents are saying. That's why you're moving out, right? Yeah. What's your problem? You know, stop following the flock.
Okay.
All right. So we have Miss Keanna List, and she's going to talk about the Department of Family Services, all the corruption. So this is going to be good.
Yeah.
Miss List, how you doing today, ma'am?
I'm good, thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
About myself or the case?
Yourself first. Then we go into the case. Because people like to know who's going to bring the case. Like, see if you're credible or not. So.
Well, my name is Keanna. I'm 28 years old. I have 4 children who I love dearly. Mm-hmm. And they're kind of the reason I'm here today. Okay. Is to fight for them. And
all 4 children from the same?
Two different. My ex-husband and then current or ex-boyfriend. So.
Okay.
But they're kind of the reason, like I said, I'm here today, and they're pretty much the reason for everything I do. They're my whole life, so yeah.
Well, you know, the Clark County Family Court has been having its problems for years, and that kind of floods over to the Department of Family Services because there's nobody watching the hen house, so to speak. Nobody whatsoever. So could you tell us what is going on with the Department of Family Services that you need to bring to light, especially when it affects you and your family?
Well, I received I had a CPS case. Somebody had called in around July 28th. Okay. And the case was open from July 28th to October 11th. And I never saw a judge in the whole time. But CPS still, or DFS still made choices and decisions and acted like they had the legal authority to do some things.
Well, you said choices and decisions. Be very specific. What choices and decisions?
Well, for example, when CPS first came to me, I was hesitant to work with them because I've had issues with them in the past. And so I didn't take the drug tests when they told me to, but I did take a hair test. The hair test came back negative.
Why didn't you take the drug test?
I don't trust CPS. I don't feel like they had a right to be knocking on my door.
And who told you that you needed to take this drug test?
CPS.
It wasn't a court order?
It was not a court order, no. In fact, every court order drug test I've ever taken, I've passed.
Did you know that, because family court is supposed to be civil. It's not supposed to be criminal at all. Because over in the RJC, which is the Regional Justice Center, we have civil and criminal judges that handle whatever case, money case, or you rob their store, right?
Okay.
Family court is supposed to just handle divorces, visitation, custody, and stuff of that nature, and that's also a civil branch. Civil judges in family court do not have jurisdiction to order anybody to take a drug test. The only judges that have that are criminal judges. But family court judges, civil judges, don't have that jurisdiction to tell somebody that they have to take a drug test. Now, if you're telling me that DFS, without a court order, is telling you to go take a drug test, they don't have the authority either.
And because I didn't do it on the day they told me to do it, the days they told me to do it, my CPS caseworker, Joesph Gloria, reached out to my ex-husband and told him that if he let me take my kids, that he was not allowed to let me see my children. And if he did, that CPS would prosecute him for being an unfit parent. And that if I showed up to pick up my kids at my court-ordered time, to call the police.
So you're saying that CPS will prosecute him
That's what CPS,
as an unfit parent?
That's what Joesph Gloria told my ex-husband.
The only Joe Gloria I know is the one that's in charge of the Clark County Registry. This is another guy has the same name?
But yeah, he did this even after I had taken the hair test. Mm-hmm. Because in my mind, hair tests go back anywhere from 3 to 6 months. So regardless of the UAs that I didn't take, the hair test would cover all of the days the case was open.
Okay.
Because the case was open July 28th. I took the hair test October 4th. So it covered all the days. Even though Joesph knew that I had taken that test, he still reached out to my ex-husband and told him that. Knowing that my ex-husband
Why is he even... Is this just a DFS worker?
Yeah.
The DFS worker really don't have no kind of... They have to testify in front of a judge.
I never saw a judge. Even though my case was open for that long, I never saw a judge.
Why did you even listen to this person?
Well, because at the time I didn't know any better. I mean, at CPS, they decide whether you can or cannot see your children. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, that's what I thought.
Even if they make up their own internal mind, if you can or can't see your child, it still has to go before a judge, and then they have to make that argument before a judge. Did you understand that? I
did not, no. And that's why when my ex-husband let me know that CPS had reached out to him, that's why I didn't go to his house, because I wasn't going to drag my children through the police showing up and then wondering what's going on. My 3 older children are 8, 9, and 11, so they know what's going on. They see it. It's clearly affecting them. So I wasn't just going to show up because with my ex-husband, that's not his fault that CPS told him to do this. You know, I can't be mad at him over that, but that's what he's going to do. He's going to follow the advice of CPS. So
tell us about your ex-husband, the one that you're fighting for to get your...
That's actually my ex-boyfriend, Laureano. This is another really, really funny one. CPS found him to be a fit parent, even though he's currently on trial for domestic violence. I testify against him on November 18th. He has multiple domestic violence cases against me. My arm, I don't know if you can see it. The scar on the back of my arm was from one.
Let's see that scar. Mark, could you zoom in on that?
That was one of the cases. He was also convicted.
How did you get that? By his hand?
He had pulled me off the bed and threw me on the floor.
And how did you get this? So,
Well, because my bone broke in two. It wasn't a fracture, it was a clean break. The bone actually broke in two. I have metal pins and needles in my arm, and the scar will never go away. He was also convicted for a felony strangulation charge against me. And then there were other ones that were dismissed, and then he's currently on trial for the domestic violence. And when I brought those issues up to CPS, I was told that that was his past and not the present. And so they weren't going to take that in, which is crazy that they weren't going to take that into consideration, even though he's currently on trial.
did you get a restraining order?
I did not at the time because that CPS advised him that he would facilitate all the visits between me and my son. So at the time,
Hold on. So the guy, the baby daddy, that broke your arm, that caused that bruise on the back of your arm, that has domestic violence with strangulation, which is a felony.
Yeah.
He is the one in charge of facilitating?
yes, I could not see my son unless he approved it.
Unless he approved it.
Per
The
se.
abuser.
Per CPS, yeah. Per CPS, that was their recommendation.
Did you reach out to any of the DFS, the person that's in charge of DFS?
I reached out to his supervisor, and she said that they supported his decisions. And
Of course
then
they do.
recently I reached out to Debbie
Debbie who?
Croshaw.
Crenshaw?
No, it's not Crenshaw, it's Croshaw.
Croshaw?
Yeah, she corrected me on that today.
And who's she?
She's the deputy director, and she...
Of DFS?
Yes.
Okay. And what does she have to say?
She gave me some advice on what I should do, how I could appeal it, and the steps that I need to take to see if something can be changed about it.
Did you know that you can appeal a DFS decision?
I did. They told me that I had 15 days. But when I reached out to the supervisor, Joanna Woodbury, I just felt like, because this was before I had talked to you about it, I felt like it didn't matter, because if his supervisor had okayed it, then what was the point? And I didn't even know at the time, because of the fact that they don't tell you what your rights are. They don't tell you what you can and cannot do. They just tell you what they want you to hear.
Did they tell you to get an attorney?
No, but
They didn't advise you to get an attorney?
no. Though there was one time when I asked him for help with something, he said that I should ask an attorney.
Okay.
There was one time he did say that via text message.
Okay.
But at the time that I was going to appeal, I just felt like there was no point, because, like I said, I didn't know what the laws were. They don't tell you what rights you have.
Please
So.
continue.
Well, with the appeal process, once I reached out to the supervisor and they said that they supported it, I was a little shocked at that, because of the fact that you could clearly see the bias between how my caseworker talked to me versus how he talked to Laureano. In fact, my caseworker specifically told me that they could not help me with custody, but then they walked Laureano through the custody process.
So they helped the father of the child, but they won't share the
wouldn't.
same help with you.
No, and I
So
have
do you think they were biased?
absolutely 100%.
And why do you think that?
Because I have read the text messages. Because Laureano, my ex, he is such a narcissist and so manipulative that he would...
You know, people throw that word out a lot.
Which one?
Narcissist. Explain what a narcissist is.
A narcissist is somebody who's so wrapped up in themselves, they're incapable of being able to feel emotions for other people. They're incapable of love. They're incapable of empathy. They're incapable of these basic human feelings, I guess you could say. That's my opinion on it.
Right.
And unfortunately for me, I fell in love with a narcissist, and so it's been a rough 5 years. It's been a really rough 5 years, in fact. But at this point in time, it would be clear for anybody from the outside to see what is going on. All you have to do is look at the facts. You don't have to look at my opinion, his opinion, her opinion. You just have to look at the facts, and you would be able to see it. But it was like, no matter what I did, what I said, I had a video of Laureano admitting he lied to DFS so that he would.
turn that video
I turned it in and it did not matter. I submitted it via email so that I had a paper trail and it did not matter.
And how did he say he lied?
When he was facilitating the visits for me, he would tell me where to meet him. And meanwhile, he was telling my CPS caseworker that I was just showing up at these places, uninvited and unannounced, that I knew where he was going to go because there were parks that we had frequented and I showed up randomly.
So with this gentleman, how many children are we talking about?
Just one.
Just the one.
Just one.
Okay.
How
old is this child?
He's 4. His name is Sebastian.
Okay.
So with my older 3 children, I have a court order. I've worked very, very hard to get to where I was at with them. But once the CPS case was open, I have seen them twice since the CPS case was open. Even though I have a court order saying that I should be seeing them more.
So you have a court order by what judge?
Bill Henderson?
So you have a court order to see your 3 kids.
Yes.
Why aren't you seeing them?
Because DFS reached out to my ex-husband and told them to take me back to court and that if I showed up to call the police.
I don't understand. What does that mean? I mean, if you have a court order to see your 3 children, why aren't you seeing them?
Because because in the state of Nevada, from what I understand and what I was told, the police are not going to make the children come out of the house. They will not go inside and force the children to come outside.
He's supposed to bring the children outside the house.
But he's not doing that because of the advice he was given by DFS.
So DFS interfered in your court order and basically telling your ex to disregard
100%.
the order, what the judge has basically ruled on, to follow their lead.
Yeah, I can.
Without a judge, without trial, without a hearing,
Correct.
Without anything.
Correct. I can read you the exact message.
What you're saying is DFS overruled the judge? Is that what you're saying?
100% yes.
Bill Henderson, are you hearing this? So DFS overruled the judge.
Yes.
That's contempt of court.
That's exactly what they did.
Did you file contempt charges against him?
I'm in the process of it. So.
Read me that text, please.
So the message that I got.
Sing a song or something. You can't have dead air.
Okay, so this was from my ex-husband. I'm not sure if you're in the loop, but Joesph from CPS today told me I'm not allowed to give you the kids and to head back to court. He stated if you show up to get the kids, to call the cops because you cannot have them. And if I give them to you, then I will be prosecuted by CPS as an unfit parent. He contacted my attorney, and Joesph said that you are no longer in communication with him, which I have my text messages to Joesph on the day that was sent.
Joesph is a DFS worker.
Yes.
So a DFS worker told your ex-husband, or is that ex-husband?
Yeah.
Told your ex-husband to disregard a judge's order and to follow his lead.
Yes.
And you did it.
Well, I don't have a choice. I mean,
What do you mean you don't have a choice?
Because if I show up, I call the police, my kids get dragged into another situation.
If you have a court order in your hand and you go pick up your kids, where are you supposed to even pick your kids up?
We do drop off and pick up at our houses. It's congenial.
If you have a court order in your hand, you think the cops are going to arrest you?
No, but they don't. But they won't make the kids come outside.
Have you tried that before?
I have, and they will not make the kids come outside.
Did you ask for that police officer's sergeant?
No, I did not.
So you didn't move up the food chain?
I just got the red cards and brought them to court.
See, the problem with litigants is that they're not educated in this type of law, and they're too scared about losing their kids or custody that they don't have the cojones to stand up for their rights. You have to start standing up for your rights.
Okay.
So please continue.
No, I mean, that was pretty much the text. He said, please do not show up this weekend, seeing as I've communicated what will happen based on the conversations I had with Joesph.
When's the last time you saw your children?
I actually just recently saw them on a supervised visit. My mom was in town, so my ex let us all go to dinner together.
So did the court order say you're supposed to have supervised visits?
No.
Prior to that, when was the last time you saw your children?
About 3 weeks before, with my ex-husband and his girlfriend supervising at IHOP.
Your ex-husband and his girlfriend.
All of
But
us.
your court order doesn't call for supervision.
It does not.
And it doesn't call for him to supervise.
Specifically doesn't call for
And
it.
his girlfriend.
Correct.
Is this the one that beat you?
No. This is my ex-husband. My ex-boyfriend is the one that was the abuser.
Okay.
But before that, I hadn't seen him for a while since the case was open.
So let me just try to recap. Your ex-husband with your 3 kids. You were going through DFS. And why were you going through DFS anyways? How did they get involved?
Somebody called and said that I had somebody called a case against me. So they for drug use.
Were you?
I had relapsed, and I had let CPS know that. They had asked me to take a urine test. At that time, I took the urine test. It came out negative. My relapse was very short-lived, and I was very honest about it. I told them about it. But they didn't really start doing anything until September 27th, when Laureano started to say things to them. And then that's when kind of all of this really hectic stuff started. That's when CPS was like, oh, Laureano said you're using, so you must be using, even though I took the hair test. But the hair test would cover the whole entire time that the case was open.
And what type of drugs were we talking?
Crystal meth was my drug of choice.
Okay. And you're clean now.
100%. I even told them before they closed the case out that I would take another hair test.
What are the ages of these 3 children?
8, 9, and 11.
Okay. So you have a court order to see your kids.
Yes.
And a DFS worker told your ex not to.
Yes.
And override a judge's court order.
Yes.
And you didn't take it back to court on an emergency hearing or contempt?
We have a hearing on November 18th, November 18th. It's actually the same day as the...
Could I say something to you?
Yeah.
A DFS worker has no damn jurisdiction to tell anybody to not listen to a judge's court order, not follow a judge's court order. The proper way they're supposed to do it is to bring you back into court and rescind that court order and to say, okay, supervised visits or whatever. But until that particular time, your ex is supposed to follow that court order until a judge changes the court order, but not until then.
I feel like the reason Joesph didn't take me to court was because he would have lost. Because my drug tests came back negative.
You need to file. You. What I would do if I was you, I would go to HR.
Okay.
Or whoever. I would go to the head of DFS. I'd explain my case to them and see if they take action. If they don't take action on that DFS worker, I would sue DFS in federal court.
Okay.
That's just what I would do.
Well, that's the game plan. Like I said, I reached out to Debbie. She gave me some things to do, the steps to take. And if they don't, she said she can't advocate unless I do the appeal and put it in writing. So
Yeah, you have to put it in writing.
That's what I'm going to be doing next.
And the boyfriend, the one that broke your arm in 2 places and got domestic violence strangulation, was he convicted of these charges?
The strangulation one, he was convicted.
So he was convicted.
He was convicted.
It's not like he just said it.
No, he was convicted.
He's convicted. He went to court and a judge saw and heard the testimony and he was convicted.
He was convicted.
And he has your children?
He has my youngest son, Sebastian. And the house that he was living in, that CPS went to go look at, was condemned by the city, and he had 10 days to get out. During the time that CPS went to the house and okayed it as a safe environment. They took my son out of a home. I have my own home with his own room, his own backyard. He has a life. They took him out of that situation.
You're talking about your 4-year-old?
My 4-year-old, yes.
Okay.
They took him out of that situation and they gave him what I feel like was terrible advice because it was detrimental to my son. At no point in time were they thinking about my son, because they also told Laureano not to drop him off at the daycare that I had gotten him into, Imagination Station, which is an early learning facility. They told him not to take him there anymore because I could pick him up.
Was this the same DFS worker?
Same DFS worker. So he advised him not to take him to the daycare because I'd be able to pick him up. So I personally reached out to my caseworker and I said, if I have my name taken off of the paperwork, will you advise Laureano to take Sebastian back to daycare because Laureano was dropping him off with complete strangers or with people he didn't know. And so I went to DFS and I asked him that. And Joesph said, at first he said, if I did that, then he would reach out to the Imagination Station and let them know that, or he would reach out to Laureano and tell him he could take it back to Imagination Station. But then after I did that, after I reached out to them and told them that no, I couldn't pick him up for 30 days, then my caseworker then told me that I needed to contact an attorney. That's when he did that.
But do you have a court order regarding your youngest?
No.
How come?
We go, because I'm waiting for a court date. I just responded to.
So you filed with the family court?
Yeah, we have an open case right now. So I'm waiting to hear back from my response. So
sounds like you got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Okay. It just sucks because I didn't know that I didn't have to follow what CPS says. It would be different if I felt like I did something wrong.
You have to follow what the judge says. The judge has to agree with the argument that CPS is putting before the court. If the judge doesn't agree with the argument CPS is putting before the court, no, you don't have to follow them. You have to follow the judge's order, not them, because they have to go through the same channels you would have to go through.
Okay. See, I wasn't aware of that. So
Call me.
Ignorance, unfortunately, a lot of us, and I say a lot of us, and I include myself, ignorance is detrimental right now because I didn't know any of these things. I didn't know I had a right to these things. I didn't know that there was a way to change this or a way to fight it.
It sounds like this CPS worker violates your constitutional right.
In every single way.
You should absolutely file a federal charge against him.
I plan on it.
As far as money damages and blah blah blah, you need to take him to federal court.
I definitely will because this has
and
affected my life
as well.
This has affected my life. Like I work in sales.
Mm-hmm.
And I have not been able to produce whatsoever because this is so consuming.
What type of sales?
I sell vacation packages.
Okay.
But I haven't been able to produce. I went from being one of the top producers in the city to not being able to produce at all because this is so consuming. I feel like I'm in a twilight zone with some of the things that I'm going through because they're so unrealistic. It's so unrealistic to me that a man that is currently on trial for domestic violence. So I don't see how that's my past or his past. He's currently on trial for it. And has a slew of domestic violence, not just with me, but all of his past relationships.
When you go to court and go in front of the judge and you talk about this person that did this domestic violence, wear something like that and show the judge exactly what that person did.
That's the goal. So it's the plan. But it's crazy that CPS would side with him. It's almost.
CPS is corrupt.
There's no doubt about it.
DFS, I said it, you're corrupt.
And I really feel like Joesph Gloria was on an ego trip because, like I said, when they first came to me, I pretty much told them to kick rocks.
How old is this Joesph Gloria?
I'm pretty sure he's 26 years old. He has no kids. So he's a 26-year-old man with no children telling parents how to parent and what is the best for their children when they've never been in a situation to make that decision, ever.
Sounds like Joesph Gloria needs to get a slap upside his head. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
I think one of the things, and I agree with, them being corrupt, but at the same time, I do think that's one of the reasons, and I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying that that's one of the reasons why I think people need to start understanding that, the system is corrupt. But in order to fix a corrupt system, you need to start understanding your rights and you need to start educating yourself on how, and again, I'm not blaming you.
I agree with you 100%.
But I'm just saying that, people need to start understanding how corrupt the system is and start doing something about it. And the only way you can do anything about it is if you understand what it is you can do.
Right. And
start following through on, and understanding what it is. And start following through on it. And that goes by voting for the right people that understand your rights as a citizen and doing something actually about it.
And I'd have to agree with you 100%. Like I said earlier, that's probably what got me in this situation, is my own ignorance to my rights and what I could and couldn't do. You know, I didn't appeal at first because I felt like I said earlier, I felt like, well, the case where their manager said that they supported their decision, so that's it. You know, I haven't gone to pick up my kids because I felt like CPS's word was binding and it was law.
Of course, the manager is going to support their decision, because if they don't, it makes the whole system look bad.
Yeah, and that's what I've noticed, because I hadn't even, when I reached out to the supervisor, it was already like, I hadn't even given her my facts, but it was, we support his decision. You know, we support him. You guys have video of this man lying, saying that he lied to you guys, and you still support him? That's mind-blowing to me. Like, it's, they will cover each other's back no matter what. And that's because I didn't know my rights. I didn't know what I could do. I didn't know that their word wasn't binding. You know, I didn't know that. So.
Well, do you have anything else we did not cover?
I think I made little bulletin points. I think that's all of it, actually.
Okay. Jim, you have anything for?
No. Other than just educate yourself and understand that. I mean, again, I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying you need to do your research and educate yourself.
I will say that I am very grateful that I stumbled upon this page and this group, because I didn't know any of this before. I didn't know that I could fight. I've already started the process. I reached out to Debbie. I will be doing the appeal. And now I have a little bit more grounds to stand on, and I have a little bit more courage, you could say, I guess, because I have hope. You know, I didn't have that before because I didn't know, you know, and I wouldn't have been able to do that without you guys. So I appreciate that.
In case an attorney sees this and wants to pick up your case, the party name that's on the court documents
is Keanna O'Connell.
Keanna O'Connor.
O'Connell.
O'Connell.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the case number?
It is, I do. I have it right here. The case number is 1386182.
Okay. And that's the one before Judge Henderson.
No. That's the case with CPS. I can look it up real quickly. My case number with Judge Henderson.
So that's the one with DFS.
Yes, that was my DFS case number. And then give me 1 second, sorry.
No worries.
I didn't know we'd be doing this one. Okay.
We try to cover everything.
I appreciate that. Okay, here we go. The case number is D14504-940D.
Have we covered everything?
I think so, yeah.
What I need you to do, Ms. List, is to look in the camera and your final thoughts, if you want to advise litigants to be more educated or whatever you want to do. And if you want to give a point of contact or an email address or whatever so somebody could contact you, you could do that as well.
I would advise
Mark
people.
is going to zoom in on you.
I would just advise people to do your own research but do the research. Because if you don't, then you'll just follow the same path, kind of like he was saying earlier. You know, you're just going to be stuck in this cruel situation because you don't know your own research, and you really can't be mad at anybody but yourself. Unfortunately for me, at first I had nobody to blame but myself because I didn't do my own research. I should have looked into these things sooner. I should have looked into them as they were happening. And so that would be my advice to anybody who's going through any situation with family court or DFS, is to look up your laws, look up your rights, look up what's going on, look up to see if what you're feeling is wrong. Trust your gut. That's really the best advice I could give. So if you trust your gut, you should find out what you can do to make it right. So, and my email address is keeksters13@gmail.com. And so, yeah.
How do you spell that?
KEEKSTERS13@gmail.com.
Ms. List, thank you so much for coming on the program and telling us your story, because it takes a lot of guts to come on and
I was super nervous.
and talk about these types of things. So thank you for doing that. And your children will know that you're fighting for them.
Thank you.
You
That
know.
means a lot.
Okay, thank you so much. Folks, that was Keanna List, and she was bringing up the corruption in the Department of Family Service of Clark County. And DFS, if you're out there, you suck. I hear too many complaints about you guys. You guys suck. I don't know how you train your doggone caseworker. What kind of certificates do they have to go out and tell parents what to do or what they can't do? And to totally disregard a judge's court order? Oh my God. I would fire that guy or have some sanctions on him, have him spend some time in jail, because that is criminal. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jones for Veterans of Politics. Until next time.